the Word of God, the mind of God, the Christ, has always been with us and will forever be with us in all the universes, including this little blue ball that's floating around in space. The Word of God was not present just for those 33 years where the Christ embodied a man. Christ energy has always and forever been with us, the Alpha, the Omega. But the world did not know the Word. Paul was a great evangelizer, and he said to the church in Rome, "The visible things of this world were so designed by God as to lead people's thoughts to the invisible things, and that if people had looked with open eyes and an understanding heart, their thoughts would have been inevitably led to the Creator of the world." Those are the Apostle Paul's words. The Word is in the world, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not. God is being revealed to us all around us in this, and is continually poking us and inviting us to be friends. And also, by the way, you might call me a heathen, and that's okay. I can deal with that. But I don't accept that Jesus is the only way that God reveals God's self. This is a universalist perspective, but God reveals God's self and invites us all into relationship in a multitude of ways, an infinite number of ways. Jesus is one way. John Wesley calls this prevenient grace. But here is what I think is so cool about Jesus. Seeing and connecting with the holy, it's really, really hard. It's hard because even though God is visible in, say, a beautiful rose or a beautiful vista or the sky or the forest, and clearly God's life and creation is right before you, it's still hard to connect with that divine force. And it's hard because even though God is visible in these tangible things, it is pretty impossible to actually have a relationship with a thing, with a rose, with a stream. They're beautiful and they're meditative and they're lovely and they remind us of creation, but it's very difficult to have a relationship with these things. And it is a relationship. It is a relationship or some kind of connection to God that I believe is God's deepest desire. The reason that we exist, in my book, is to be one with God, partners with God, co-creators with God. So since it is so hard to connect with a rock, God came up with a pretty awesome idea. We tend to clumsily bump into one another in the dark. We become afraid, we become lost, and maybe we're confused. But then, in all our bumbling around, God came to us in the form of a human being. Now maybe, just maybe, the world will know the Word, the mind, the Christ. Maybe now we can enter into some kind of relationship with the divine. Now, the Christian tradition teaches us that we are children of God. Not just Christians, but all with a beating heart are children of God. So now let's talk about the idea of a child being a child of God. As children, there must be a parent, and that's the kind of relationship that we are called to be a part of. We may claim this relationship. We may acknowledge that we are children of the divine, and the divine is our parent, or we might not accept that at all. We might not even think about it. Nevertheless, we are all loved equally by this Word, whether we know it or not, whether we accept it or not. We are loved unconditionally by this Word. So here's an explanation, a basic explanation of what I'd like to share with you to try and get my point across here. So let's say I have a child, and we will call that child Betty. And that child lives in my home, and I feed her, and I clothe her, and I send her to school, and I love her and nurture her. Well, it might be obvious then that I am the parent, Betty is the child, and that's it. Then she might move out after she graduates, and she might move into living her own life, and she might never contact me again. Nevertheless, I remain her parent. She remains my child. She may never connect with me again, and she may never know the love that a parent has for a child. She may not know it, she may not accept it, she may not acknowledge it, she may not engage in the relationship of mother and daughter. Now let's say I have another child, and I'd like to call this child Harry. So Harry is a child that is raised in my home. Like Betty, I feed him, I send him to school, I love him unconditionally and nurture him, and he may be my child in an entirely different way. Perhaps Harry acknowledges that he is my son, and he knows that I love him. This love that he feels from me might inspire him to love me back. Perhaps he's grateful for the roof over his head, or the clothes on his back, and the food that he's fed, and perhaps he's thankful. And perhaps Harry is going to allow me to comfort him when he is hurting. And maybe he'll allow me to laugh with him when he is feeling joy and doing something funny. Perhaps Harry will open himself to the intimate relationship with me, his mother. Harry, in this scenario, has claimed his title as my son, knowing that I am his parent and that I love him unconditionally. And our relationship between mother and son makes both of our lives incredibly rich. Now, Betty is always going to remain my child, no matter what. I will always love her unconditionally, no matter what. But if she never claims the relationship that we have as mother-daughter, if she never acknowledges me, if she never really recognizes me as a doting mother who loves her unconditionally and only wants the best for her, if she's not aware of that, she will not experience a love that only a mother can give. And without love, I would assume that her life would probably be a little bit empty. He, the Word, was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. Because Jesus embodies this Word, this Christ, this power, he shows us that we are God's and God is ours. Jesus gives us a means, a way in which we can actually connect with God. The Word that is incarnate in Jesus shows us the way to claim our loving relationship of God, of our divine parent. And Jesus helps us do that. If we pay attention to his lessons and his life, if we follow and imitate Jesus, then our relationship with Jesus is going to lead us into a way of love, into a relationship with the whole divine entity. We will have a relationship with the cosmic shebang, the whole 9 yards. Jesus is kind of like a tunnel for us to go through, a key. He's a key to help us, because with Jesus, we can have a relationship. And I say this over and over and over and over and over again. Everything in life is about relationship, relationship, relationship. With others, with ourselves, and with God. Jesus is the key. He gives us a path that leads us so that we might accept that we are a child of the divine. But unfortunately, John tells us in his gospel that the world did not know the Word, and so the Word became flesh. That is God's gift as we celebrate Christmas. And the Word becoming flesh is what we will ponder next Sunday.